right, hello everybody. We're back again with the same crew here. This is Loren, Luke, and Neil. We have a little bonus episode. All right, so we just finished talking about SLT, but we want to talk about something that's been going on here in Voyage, Chicago, which is that our church has been changing here. Okay, so it's been changing. It's been changing in the sense that we moved our downtown, or we moved our service from Hyde Park to downtown. Okay, and we have expanded our official reach from UChicago IIT to now UChicago IIT, UIC, Loop schools, including Roosevelt and Columbia and SAIC and all the other ones, National Louis. And yeah, we're trying to do what some people will call like a city church approach and do all that. All right, so now from my perspective, this has been in the works since like maybe late 2023 as an idea. The staff started talking about it February 2024. And yeah, it's been building. We first presented to the students in March 2024. And anyway, so back then it was just an idea. But now it's like happening, all right? And we're in it. We're deep in it. So we're like 8th week now. How do you guys feel about it?
It's been different. It's been different.
Yeah, so since you guys are like our upperclassmen, right? And you've been here since basically your freshman year.
Unk status.
Neil, freshman year, right? Your freshman year. Yeah. So
the summer before my freshman year.
Yeah, Luke, even before his freshman year.
Me too.
And Loren, since high school, actually, you came to one service in high school.
That's
I remember.
True.
Yeah, back at Cammy's. So you've been here for a while, as far as students go. Let's start with this. What's a word to describe how you feel about this new direction that we're going in? Especially since Neil, you've been here since we've been making the push in August, and Loren and Luke, you just came back from SLT to like a completely different church. You're like, what's happening here? Yeah. I mean, you knew about it, I guess, but actually coming and seeing it. So, one word to describe how you feel about it.
Yeah, I can go first. I think for me it was foreign was the word I'd use to describe it. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of reminded me like. My grandparents lived in a different town than I did. They moved when I was, fairly young. And sometimes, like, for Easter, we'd go visit them and then go to their church service when they're completely separate towns. Like, you know some people, but the majority is strangers. And it felt kind of, like, strange and different in that regard. Yeah, so it kind of felt like that, visiting my grandparents' church.
You're like, wait, this is my church?
Yeah. Not in the sense, like, there was a bunch of old people there. But it was, for the most part, we've been a very tight-knit group. I feel, especially, I think part of this too is because, there's not a ton of like bros in my peer class for the most part for the past few years. It's been me and Neil. And so through that, getting really close to the staff and close to each other. And then I come back from SLT and come to this and I don't know the majority of people there. Like most of these people in the seats.
That's like a new experience.
Yeah, I've never seen before. And I'm like, wait, this is my local church? This is like my church? Like what? Yeah, and so that was just kind of an experience I hadn't felt in a while. Just not knowing everyone there was new.
Yeah, that is interesting to come back to. You're like, who is everybody, right? And some of those people have been coming out now for 4 or 5 weeks. Right, and there are people that we're starting to actually get to know, but then just the timing of UChicago and the schools is different too. Okay, yeah. What about the others?
I would say encouraged. I'm just really amazed by like how far we've pushed this, and especially with the IIT campus, we had our first welcome night, and it was really successful. Yeah, and
it was like 50 people, 60 people.
It was that big?
I forget.
It was more.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, no, it was like 70, right?
70, 80.
Yeah,
some people.
It overflowed.
Wow.
Yeah. So people were standing outside listening. Yeah. It was wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It got to the point where also like for our services, we had to change rooms to the bigger room. And we're filling that bigger room up. So I was just very encouraged and to see that we can still keep the ball rolling too. And I just what Luke said, because like, when the service that he came back, he was like, Neil doesn't want to sit with me anymore. He wants to sit with these guys. It's a really big shift, but I'm just very encouraged.
So a really sweet picture for me was on our first, not the open house we just had this past Sunday, but about a month ago, Labor Day weekend, we had our first Welcome Sunday. And so that was really targeted toward Loop and IIT. And we didn't know who was going to come that day. We'd been doing outreach at IIT for 3 weeks now at that point. And then Neil was supposed to do walk groups, you and Alex, I think. Yeah. And so then we get a text from Neil, and it's this picture of like all these people like come in to his service, and we're like, so it was like almost 60 people who showed up for the walk group. And You guys were gonna take the bus,
Yeah,
the
we were
four
gonna take
bus,
the bus.
but we're like, this is not gonna fit in the bus. Then they had to change plans and take the red line instead.
Yeah.
So that was a sweet picture for me because we've always, so this is how the staff feel. We've always felt bad for the IIT students because all of our ministry has always revolved around UChicago, and even the programming revolves around UChicago. So then they're here. IIT is the first school to move in all of Chicagoland. I don't know if you guys knew this. They're the first, so they're here for 5 weeks before we offer anything. So they're just chilling in the dorms. Like we don't have Bible study for them. We don't have anything, right? But then this year we're able to finally, hey, okay, we have a bunch of upperclassmen. Hey, let's reach out to your campus together, and we got to do welcome night and put on all those events. And so, yeah, I'm really thankful for that. And the experience, I'm thankful that in your senior year, you get to have that experience of trying to be an older brother to these new students who are coming out. So, yeah, cool. Loren, what's your word?
My word is a little bit different from the other two.
Sure.
I think my word would be anxious.
Oh, okay.
To be honest. Yeah. I think second year for me was sort of this period where I felt more stable in terms of like where I was in college, and also in terms of how I was incorporating myself into the church community. And so I think I knew when you guys announced it that this would mean just a lot of dynamic changes inevitably. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that was something that I wasn't sure how that was going to work out. And obviously everybody is still figuring things out. Yeah. So we're kind of in this vague position where everybody is just going with the flow. So I think there was some anxiety there. And then, like Luke said, when I came back, I realized all of these new students are probably wondering who that girl is.
Yeah.
Who walked in. They all know each other. Yeah. They don't know who
but suddenly all of you guys are on stage.
Exactly. So I think it just was a very new environment to be coming back into. But also, like Neil said, I was very encouraged seeing how many students from downtown who obviously were seeking after a community like this, how many of them were just coming out and so open. And yeah, that was really encouraging. Where else was I going with that? Oh yeah, and then also anxiety in terms of, now I'm an upperclassman.
Sorry.
You know.
It's true though.
It is true.
Yeah. What year are you? Third year, right? I think that's upperclassmen, right? Yeah.
And I think also there's a weird layer there where a lot of people are now new, and so it feels okay. Sure. Now I'm the person who should or supposed to know certain things, or like how the church works, things like that. Yeah. So I think there's some pressure on myself to then make this transition smoother in some way. I don't know, whatever that means, but
I think one thing that was funny too, like about us, like coming back for like our first one we were sharing about SLT, is we came back from SLT and we were back still 2 or 3 weeks before all the UChicago people came back too. So it was like all the downtown people, and then Luke and Loren and a couple others who had like been here all summer. And it's, I don't know, I've come back before classes started, and it's been like house church, so it's like staff plus a couple like Neil and like maybe Houchan or something like that, and like all the staff, and then it's like, oh no, now I'm the odd one out. Because all the UChicago people didn't really come back to like last week or the week before.
So I think that's all part of, I think it's like the anxiety and the feeling like this is foreign, like that's totally understandable. Actually, I feel those exact same things. I feel all three of those emotions at the same time. Because those of you in the room with me right now, like we've known you guys for years. You've come on trips with us, retreats with us. Like, we know your backstories, you know our backstories. Like, we've done life together. So our vision is that the new students who are coming out, that would happen with them, right? And every fall, I remind our staff, every person that you consider a brother and sister in Christ right now started as a stranger. Every single person. Nobody here was like, oh, we're friends. Like, all of it required work. All of it required going through steps of, like, just learning to relate and who are you, and kind of trying to figure out that whole social scene. And so we have to go through that. And I think what it means to make disciples of all nations, like one of the implications of that is that we have to be willing to open our hearts again and again. And from my end, I've been trying to figure out like how do we reach more students? And I think for the past 4 or 5 years, we've been trying to figure out how to reach more students at UChicago. And I think we've really tried our best. And I think we have a strategy that seems to reach a good number of people here at UChicago. And we ran that strategy again this year. We saw 60 UChicago students come out to service this past Sunday. So that's really, which I don't know if you guys know, but that's actually higher than any open house Sunday we've done at the UChicago campus.
Wow.
So I was encouraged by that. Because I didn't know if Chicago students would come out to downtown.
Yeah.
But apparently they were willing to. Okay. So yeah, anyways, I think it's all very understandable. And yet my hope is that as we kind of spend time together and become the church together, that this would become the new normal. Right. Mm-hmm. And so personally, I'm looking forward to this weekend. So fall retreat this weekend. I know y'all are attending, and we have a bunch of the new folk attending as well. So that extended time is going to be huge. I think how we feel, how you guys feel, and the relationships there are going to feel very different after this weekend. Now, the other thing that you guys might not appreciate is that we also started meeting together with international.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's another variable here. So now our service and kind of our main identity group is not just undergrads, but we're we have grad students, we have international, we have working professionals who are joining our service. So that dynamic is new as well. So I think we'll experience what that's like this weekend as well. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a challenge, but I think the more diverse lines we can cross and become family together, the more beautiful it is. I'm looking forward to that. So I don't want to make this episode too long, so I'm just gonna turn this around. And so I want to see if you guys have any questions for me about any of this, any of what's been going on, like with the downtown outreach, the new strategy, things like that.
I guess, my question was like, I guess sort of like, why now? I actually, when we had first announced downtown stuff, being totally transparent, I don't know if mad's the right word, but I was, dude, what the heck? Are you abandoning UChicago? What's happening? Like, there's still so much more work to do on this campus. And now we're diverting attention away. No one's going to come. Oh, what the heck? But then, I don't know, a lot of your reasonings, I've now turned the page on. And obviously, I feel like they've kind of always made sense. I needed to just not be as selfish. That's been a journey for me this summer. Go back to the previous episode. But I guess, with that, like, why now? I feel like those reasons have been true always. So like, why now is it the change to push downtown, and why didn't it happen sooner, or why isn't it happening later?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is sort of an accident of history. So one thing is that we didn't always know the extent of the need and the extent of the colleges in downtown. So that's something that I became much more aware of starting. Okay, no, that's not true. I probably knew about it probably like summer 2022. So probably 2 years ago. So that's when we started kind of becoming more aware of all these campuses, and these campuses that don't have Christian groups or any churches reaching them. So we became aware of that. We've always known about IIT. Obviously that's why we started. It's 10 minutes away from us. We knew about UIC. The downtown schools is where it was a little bit new back maybe 2 years ago. Now, I think the reason we didn't start earlier is because we planted in Hyde Park. We planted it to reach UChicago students. That has always been our stated primary goal. And so we have this concept. I don't know how useful of a concept it is, but we have this concept of primary campuses and secondary campuses within our network that the staff use. Right. So our primary campus, as listed, always would have been UChicago. And then once we discovered IIT and UIC, the secondary campuses were always IIT and UIC, which then explains the rhythms that we had. Now, I've always felt like we have to reach all of Chicagoland. Yeah, and it was a question of when. But UChicago, I felt like we didn't get to give it like a legit chance because of circumstances. So 2018, the brothers come, they start doing outreach. That's great, but it wasn't a formal outreach strategy. There was no strategy because they're just doing outreach, and it was good. They met people like Eden and Giselle and things like that, and so it was good. But then 2019 we come, it's our first time leading a church plant, so we have no idea what we're doing. And then in March of that year that we come, there's COVID. Okay, so we shut down. The following year is not normal either because students don't come back for the fall, 2020 to 2021. And then 2021 suddenly starts to feel like a normal year.
2021,
yeah, so 2021 starts to feel like a normal year. And so we make a push. And so that, in my mind, 2021 was our reset year. That's when it's almost like we started over again. And then I think it took about 2 years to refine our strategy. Like, how do we meet students at UChicago, right? And what is our place amongst the other ministries and churches here? What is the niche? And that this might sound obvious to us now, but like even this, because most of our other churches, like in California, they tend to be still pretty Asian. Because historically, Berkeley was an Asian church and things like that. If you look at our student population, we don't look very Asian. Okay, that was not obvious to us at first, back in 2021, because that class that came in 2021, the ethnic makeup completely changed for our church, and so I think we were figuring out all of that too. What is our what does that look like? And so, anyways, all this to say that I think in 2020 and 2022 we tried something, and then 22 to 23. We refined that strategy. But then 23, 24, I think what we decided to do was to double down and say, okay, we're going to give UChicago everything we've got. Because during that time, this is becoming way too long of an answer.
I'm interested. I'm listening.
But during that time, our network was also kind of wrestling with, okay, because everyone in the church world was talking about students don't like big events. Students are anxious. Students like one-on-ones. Students like small groups. And then I think during that time, we also realized, you know what? But college students are still college students. And they want big, exciting events and they want to meet people. So during that 21 to 23 era, I think we were going smaller and smaller. And I think that was okay. But then I think 23 to 24, that's when we shifted and we said, let's go big again. Okay, let's throw everything we've got, all of our tactics, all of our events, everything we know how to do, 30-second survey, big pop-ups, give away food every night. We're going to be out there every night till midnight. We're just going to die for 2 weeks. And we did that, 23, 24. And so that was last year. And like, I was happy with the results. Like I felt, hey, we were getting about 40 students on average at Sunday service. We have about half those people being discipled in midweek. And I felt like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But honestly, so this is what happened for me. Okay, so now this is why this year. It's because we started praying for the downtown campuses. So back in, I think about 6 months ago, we started doing that. At the same time, in the winter quarter here at UChicago, there was an event, a Voyage gathering, where we had about 10 students show up. And 22 staff were there. Now, again, it's not about numbers, but when I looked at that scene, I just had this really strong sense, and maybe it was from the Lord. I just had this strong sense, man, what are we doing? Like, we have 22 staff who are really capable, really dedicated, are willing to give so many hours a week for college ministry, and we're holding this event with 10 students. Do we really need 2.2 staff per student in order to bless the student at UChicago? Can I say to God, we're really trusting you right now. We are really trusting you and really obeying all that you've been putting on our heart. And so then that just, for me, instantly connected with IIT and all these schools that we keep talking about reaching, but we've never actually invested into it. Not invested like we have for UChicago. So then, yeah, it was sort of a moment that I had with God, I think, where I felt like something needs to change. Yeah. So then, subsequent to that, we had a staff. We as the staff occasionally, couple times a quarter, will go away on these all-day meetings to talk about the next 3 to 6 months. And we actually did an exercise. It's called a pre-parade. You imagine a future scenario and you think about what are the steps you need to take to get there. And the future scenario that I described, get this. Okay, I actually just recently looked it up. Is there are 100 students coming to Sunday service from 8 colleges. About 50% from UChicago, 25% from IIT, 25% from all the other schools. How did we get there? Which is crazy to me because we had 100 students at Sunday service this past Sunday with those ratios.
Wow.
Yeah, from about nine different colleges.
More than 8?
Yeah, more than 8. No, but the thing to me is that prompt, I remember when all of the staff read it, they were like, good joke. Wow, that's great. Oh my God, that's not going to fine, DP. Like, I'll fill out the prompt. It was a little bit like that. It was a little bit like, what is this? Like, we cannot possibly do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then yeah, so from that brainstorming session in March to what we're experiencing now, I just feel like God led us during this time. Like it was the only right thing for us to do, given the cascading sequence of events that happened. Yeah. So, anyways, that's sort of my why not later? Why not later is I got the sense of urgency from that one Voyage gathering, but it was also I was thinking about Neil a lot because Neil's a senior. I think it's really important for Christian students to experience loving people in their local context. I mean, it's great for Neil to just join you Chicago stuff, and it's different though. And Neil, I think you would testify that it's different. Yeah. Like the people that you see all the time, it's your campus, and having a sense of being able to do something there and have a sense of ownership over that. I just felt if it's just for Neil, like we got to do some IIT stuff, and I don't care if we're not an RSO. We're just gonna. So then I commissioned people to look for venues. They had a hard time. I happened to come by Sticks and Bricks, and they were willing to rent. So then that became our venue, and we've held 2 events there already. So it's just for me, it was actually. That was part of the reasoning. If anything, we'll see how it goes. If it's bad, then hey, we can drop it next year. But actually, what God's shown us is there's out of the campuses we're detecting that IIT and Columbia, there's a lot of openness based on the who's coming out and things like that. Anyways, that's my really long answer to your short question, but hopefully I did it justice because there was a lot that there is a definite answer to that question. So I just wanted to give it full treatment. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
I liked how that was like the vision for, what was it, a year later after the Disciples Retreat?
Oh, yeah.
But I wonder what your vision now is for, since you kind of reached that milestone recently. How is it what's the next level after that?
Yeah, it's like the vision was too small, right?
Yeah.
So what's the next stage? Yeah. So we've been thinking about that. So I don't have anything, I don't have anything like too concrete, but I just have like maybe different angles. Okay, like one angle is I think strategically we have to figure out how to be one church in many contexts. So that's already happening through things like Sunday service, and then through these like big events that we have like Fall Retreat. That's going to forge this single identity, Voyage. Okay, but then we also have to figure out how to develop because I like IIT, like it was like Neil by himself for a while, and then it was Hao Chen. But then it took a couple years for there to be something like a community forming in IIT. So we have to figure out how to do that process better, faster. So that's on my mind as we hit all these campuses. Because I don't know if you guys know, but we have one student who's coming from Northeastern Illinois University, which is a 40-minute BART, or not BART ride, CTA ride. BART, dang, I went East Bay right now. Oh my gosh, yeah. So anyways, like, just people coming in from far away. So I think the natural next steps are like, okay, how do we include more of these campuses? Another thing on my kind of in my thoughts right now is what is the relationship between NU and all of this? And as we think about the future of Chicago, is there a way to like maybe centralize the service more? Like I think NU's too far to join us every week, but maybe there's a way to stream out and so that it feels more like actually one congregation. The reason we named Voyage Evanston and Voyage Chicago is because we always envisioned those campuses not being separate. Like it is one church, and how do we get that to feel that way more? And then there's like my vision is like, dude, how can we reach Chicagoland? And so like Wheaton, Wheaton is far though, right? It's far, so that's the thing. Like they're not going to be able to regularly join for Sunday service. But again, so is there a different way of doing church where you can legitimately feel like one community with local expressions in a college setting? I know there's the multi-church model for that for just normal neighborhood churches, but kind of in what we do, which is reaching the collegiate community. And then for me, I'm thinking about youth. We have Chinatown nearby. I mean, we have CPS is one of the largest public school districts in the United States, like a lot of underserved people around here. Like how do we start expanding out into the youth world as we get more staff, as maybe more and more people either move here for those ministries or people graduate and stay and want to serve. Like we figure out as we have more, a lot of how we position the ministry is based on the people that we have and we want to give them ministry to do. Yeah, because even my reasoning about the 22 staff and the 10 students, like if it was 4 staff and 10 students, I would have been like, oh, this is happy. This is great. But I'm like, what are these other 18 staff doing? I want them to have fulfilling ministry to do. So that's part of the reasoning. So anyways, that's sort of just random thoughts that I have about the future. Yeah. Anything else before we wrap things up?
I guess I would ask for, advice maybe, or your thoughts on. I think part of the first season when I was like, oh man, what are we doing downtown? You're abandoning New Chicago, blah, blah. And just, it's less of the attention's on New Chicago and we're doing other things, right? And so I guess how, as someone who's, and maybe some of the other upperclassmen are listening to this, what are ways that, as it's more of a citywide church and things like that, ways like at U Chicago we can still try to like outreach and connect with people? Because I don't know, it is hard. And it was cool to hear that we had so many people coming out, but then to the welcome service. But then the negative part of me thinks, oh, that's because it was first week and nobody's gonna come once midterms hit and all that stuff.
That's definitely true. And that's been true every year.
Yeah. But like this, by the time we're gonna have, it's just gonna be me, Loren, and Sana, and all the people who always come. Like new people are gonna come.
Yeah.
And so I guess what would your advice be as the church is shaping into more of this city church for college students throughout the city, and not just U Chicago, ways we can make sure we foster that community amongst U Chicago students and still remain engaged with them? I think a lot of that, I mean, we had done that planning too back in March at that like spring discipleship retreat, and a lot of what we said was like the students, I don't know if stepping up's the right word, maybe it is, and doing things. So I guess what would your advice be on that? I don't know if this is the right format for that, but what would your advice be for us to try to do that?
Yeah. I think it is exactly that, which is that the students do need to step up in some ways, right? And it's, I don't know, that's always been the case though. So that's the, I think that shows a sign of the maturity of the church when the students get more and more involved. And I don't think we're deprioritizing U Chicago in any way. We had all 22 staff doing U Chicago outreach in the first 2 weeks and things like that. And what we're doing is we're just being more strategic with our time and energy.
Yeah.
Which is because we know now, like we know the U Chicago cycle. We've been here 5 years. We know that we're going to get a lot of students in the first 3 weeks. Okay, and then as soon as it starts week 4, we're going to get a dip, and then we're going to get a little spike in 7, and then a dip again in 8 and 9, and then that's it. Those are the 9 weeks of the quarter. It's like formulaic. So, and that's fine. Like I think we have to be realistic about students' availabilities and things like that. So I think what can an upperclassman, what can a core member of our ministry do? And this doesn't apply to just U Chicago, right? This like applies to IT, whatever. But this is, I think the events that we have, like Sunday service, I think you have to have the mentality that I am going to connect with someone here. Like I am going to connect with someone here. Why am I here? Obviously, you're there to worship the Lord, okay? But like in all the times beforehand, the rides, the mingling times, the after, like, why am I there? Am I gonna just sit and talk with the people that I feel most comfortable with, or am I gonna move toward the person that I don't know? Like, I think our staff, they're well trained and they know they should. If there's someone who's not being engaged by anybody, like they would move towards them, and I would expect our core students to start doing the same. That's the only way. Because you know what? The thing that we're most successful at bringing people to is Sunday service, ironically. It's interesting. Like, people will come to Sunday service, but how are they going to meet with you? How are they going to get a sense for the Voyage community? How did you get that? It was because people met with you midweek, right? But there's very limited to, like, actually, like, a lot of students don't want to meet with staff midweek because it's just like random postgrads. But an upperclassman that goes to the same school as them, that's really cool if they want to hang out with you. So it's that is the role of the upperclassmen, which is you are the one providing that community, right? That's something that the staff can't do, actually. The community that we provide is at the level of someone who's already committed. If you're already committed, then yeah, I mean, you guys are over at my house all the time, you know that. But like a brand new student coming out, that's not what they're looking for. So my direct, like, practical advice would be use Sunday services, use the midweek mentorship group times. Like, whenever you're at an event, be in your SLT getting to know people mode.
Yeah.
That's the mode you should be in. Not in, oh, I need to just relax and I'm just going to play with Audrey mode. That mode, right? Like, that's very different, right? A very intentional mode. So that, yeah. Not targeting anybody here, but, you know. Yeah, but, you know, some people playing with Audrey a lot. I mean, Audrey's fine, but, you know, she doesn't speak English yet, so.
She says hi and bye-bye.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, actually. And she says Emma, too. But she won't say DP. Dang it.
Yeah, that's one thing that the mentors from, like, SLT said. Like, the mission isn't over. There's a lot of mission work back at our campuses. So yeah, that's something that I was excited because like SLT blues, that's real.
Yeah.
Once I got back home, I wasn't doing really much. I was just
rotting away.
Yeah, but once outreach came back and like we were starting the IIT welcome events, I was pretty excited. And I think I've met so much people throughout just the welcome weeks events for both like my orientation thing and for outreach for IIT and just meeting people at Welcome Sunday. And yeah, it's completely different from what I've experienced last year and the previous years. I wouldn't really go up to people and say, hey, my name is Neil. What's your name? I would just be like, just wait for them to come to me.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed that sometimes after whatever event or something, you're like trading numbers with people and just because say you want to play basketball with someone, right? There's just stuff like that. It's just a chance to would I have a natural next follow-up or next meeting with this person? Like we can go hang out somewhere, maybe we have a shared interest and you get their number and then that turns into a genuine relationship and friendship, right? And I think that's always helpful. And that's the ministry. That's the beginning of any ministry. Okay. Thank you guys for your questions. And I mean, I'm personally looking forward to what will happen. To be honest, I think God's like totally blown away our like expectations and around this. So if this is what the first couple months look like, and of course the midterm season will come, and I'm not really talking about the numbers, but just this potential of having a community that's cross campus and people. There are spiritually hungry people there who came and, when we do, I don't know if you guys know, but like, I think it was like 8 or 9 people marked that they wanted to become Christian this past Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So,
amen.
Yeah. I mean,
Praise the Lord.
there's a lot of like, I don't know what that decision meant for them. Right. And there's, obviously like questions that I have about that, but then it's like people want to hear the gospel. People are interested. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful. So, all right. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was another episode of D-Pod. Some of our reflections on the downtown move and me making sure that Luke and Loren don't feel like we're ditching you Chicago, I guess. But all right. Thanks for listening, guys.